My name is Ayumi. After graduating from junior college, I married my boyfriend and gave birth to a daughter. Up until then, everything was smooth sailing and I was living a happy and complaint-free life. But recently, I've been having more conflicts with Hitomi, my mother-in-law, over my daughter, Airi. The reason is obvious. Our fundamental ideas about parenting are completely different. Today, since I had the day off, I was playing with Airi using the blocks she's been into lately. She's really enjoying playing. I'm glad I bought them.
Good morning, Airi.
My mother-in-law called out to my daughter cheerfully.
What do you want to play today? Grandma, read me a picture book today.
My daughter happily hugged my mother-in-law.
Oh my, Airi, you're so adorable. I'll do anything for you.
There she goes again, saying she'll do anything.
Yay! I love you, Grandma.
In my mother-in-law's hands was another new picture book. What is she going to do by spoiling her like this? I thought to myself and decided to say it out loud. Airi, no. Give it back to Grandma.
Oh dear, how could you say such a thing? I just bought it for her.
Lately, the pampering has gone too far. At this rate, it's not good for Airi. As soon as I said that, Airi glared at me angrily.
Why not? It's fine.
No means no.
Fine. I hate you, Mom.
Airi said that, clutching the picture book in her arms, and headed to her room. Why would she say something like that? I hid my face and cried.
Ayumi, this won't do. If you continue like this, it'll be like failing at parenting.
With that, my mother-in-law went after Airi. I could hear my mother-in-law and Airi talking from her room.
Why did Mom say that? I'm being a good girl. Maybe she's just jealous. Because Airi is getting all these things. Why would she say that, even though she's my mom? Who knows? Maybe she's just being mean. But don't worry. You're my granddaughter, so I'll do anything for you and buy you anything you want. Really? Thank you, Grandma. I love you.
I heard this conversation from outside the room. It couldn't possibly be true, but I couldn't say anything right then. He told me. I muttered in my heart, but could never voice it out loud. Weeks passed. My daughter's room was piling up with gifts for my mother-in-law. Dolls and toys were stacked in heaps. I gathered my courage and spoke to my mother-in-law once more. He told me, could I have a word with you?
What's wrong?
My mother-in-law looked at me with a puzzled expression. I think it might be a bit too much to keep spoiling her like this. Airi is becoming more and more selfish. Honestly, it's troubling for me.
I'm not spoiling her. She's my first grandchild, so a little bit of indulgence should be fine. When you have a grandchild someday, you'll understand too.
She smiled as she continued.
Ayumi, you really don't understand anything about raising children, do you? Well, I guess it can't be helped. After all, I have way more experience than you, right?
That may be true, but she's my daughter. My mother-in-law interrupted my words.
Right, then it's fine. You're too strict with Airi. It's definitely better to leave her to me. Airi would surely say she prefers me too.
Her words made me feel irritated, but I knew that arguing here would be pointless. So I held back and remained silent. My mother-in-law having said her piece, and left the room with a satisfied look on her face. I sighed deeply and held my head in my hands. Why can't she understand? However, I also have some doubts. Maybe I'm being too strict? Maybe I should be more lenient, like my mother-in-law. But if I spoil her that much, she will really become a selfish child. Like that, I tried to convince myself. That night, I sat on the bed in the bedroom and talked to my husband, Hideaki. I feel like your mother is spoiling Airi too much lately. What do you think about your mother? My husband replied with a troubled expression.
Well, I'm grateful to Mom, but maybe she's going a bit too far. But I can't say it too strongly. Mom thinks she's doing it for the best. If I say too much, it might not go well, right?
Then what about our parenting? I looked at my husband anxiously. He looked away, awkwardly. She's our daughter. If things continue like this, she might stop seeing us as our parents. I tried to appeal to my husband, urging him to understand. But he was at a loss for words and fell silent. I sighed deeply and held his hands. We need to work together more. If this continues, Irie will end up being a selfish child.
Yeah.
The next day, I went shopping at the mall with Irie and my mother-in-law. There, the very thing I feared happened.
Mom, I want this. Buy it.
No, I told you we're not buying anything today, didn't I?
Why? Buy it for me.
Stop being so selfish. You've been getting a lot of things recently, haven't you?
I want this.
Irie gradually became more and more selfish. She started kicking and crying on the floor of the shopping mall.
What's the matter? Mom won't get me this. Oh, really? I see. I will buy it for you then. Really? Thank you, Grandma.
No, Hitomi, you can't. I desperately tried to stop her, but she brushed me off lightly.
It's okay. You have to spoil your grandchildren.
With that, my mother-in-law took Irie and headed to the checkout. One day at the park, Irie spotted a child, probably her age, riding a bicycle. Her eyes sparkled.
Mom, I want a bicycle.
Okay, but only if you promise to practice every day. I replied with a smile.
Okay, I'll practice a lot.
She answered loudly and cheerfully, and her face was so happy that I felt glad I bought it. After we bought the bicycle, my mother-in-law showed up, clearly looking angry. She had an expression that said she wouldn't be satisfied until she said something, stomping her feet as she came toward us.
What are you doing? Bicycles are dangerous. Why would you buy one for her?
Her words were harsh and loud, not quite shouting, but clearly not holding back her anger. But Irie says she wants to ride it. I'll make sure she practices safely. Besides, she needs to learn how to ride eventually. I calmly spoke, making sure not to be overwhelmed by my mother-in-law's intensity. I need to speak up. With a firm resolve in my heart, I stood up to my mother-in-law.
You're being irresponsible. Giving Irie a bicycle. She could get seriously hurt.
My mother-in-law's lips trembled as she spoke harshly. Irie seemed to be watching the exchange between us. That night, while I was reading in the bedroom, Irie quietly came into the room.
Mom, why is Grandma so angry? I saw you and Grandma fighting earlier.
She says sadly. Grandma cares about you, Irie, so she worries a lot. But I feel the same way because I care about you. I want you to be strong. Irie nodded with a slightly sad expression. If you keep relying on Grandma all the time, you'll turn into a really spoiled child, right? So Grandma and I had a bit of a disagreement and ended up arguing. I answered gently.
I see. Mom, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for saying I hate you.
My daughter, with tears in her eyes, hugged me tightly. Tears welled up in my eyes too, and I gently stroked her head. Thank you, Irie. As your mom, I'll do my best too. So let's grow together, okay? Irie, still buried in my chest, nodded quietly.
Grandma! Yes, Irie?
My mother-in-law, in a gentle voice, lifted her eyes from the newspaper.
I've decided I'll listen to what Mom says. I'll become stronger and stronger so I can put Grandma's mind at ease. And that's why I've decided to listen to her. I realized that Grandma is wrong.
Irie spoke honestly, facing my mother-in-law without fear. My mother-in-law showed a surprised expression, let out a deep sigh. She gazed into Irie's serious eyes and thought for a moment.
No, that's not a right decision, Irie.
Before my mother-in-law could finish her negative words, Irie immediately spoke up.
It's not wrong. From now on, I'm going to listen to what Mom says and think things through properly.
Irie said clearly. My mother-in-law was taken aback by her determined spirit. She glanced at me briefly, then looked back at Irie with a surprised expression.
Irie, listen.
After starting to speak, my mother-in-law closed her mouth and said nothing more. Hitomi, from now on, I will raise Irie to be a strong and kind-hearted child. So please, stop spoiling her from now on. My mother-in-law said nothing in response. Perhaps she never imagined that both Irie and I would speak to her this way. She then left the house looking sad and sulking.
Well then, I suppose I've overstayed my welcome.
As if to replace my mother-in-law, my husband returned home.
Hey, did something happen? Mom left the house looking really sad.
Hideaki asked with a puzzled look. I talked to her about it.
Talk to her? About what?
His tone suggested he already knew what I was talking about.
I said it too. I said I'll listen to what Mom says. I said I'll be a strong girl who can endure.
Irie spoke to Hideaki with an innocent look on her face. She wasn't rejecting her grandmother. She was simply expressing her own will to do things for herself. Hideaki looked at me with a slightly confused expression. Just as Irie said, I told your mother, I'll raise Irie to be strong and responsible without spoiling her too much. And she understood. That's why she went home today. Hideaki, with a bitter expression, seemed to think for a moment.
Well, if Mom said that, then maybe that's fine. Yeah, let's do that. We'll raise her to be a strong and kind child.
But I kept a serious face and didn't look away from my husband. Oh, even though I was struggling so much? You didn't do anything to help me, did you?
Well, I
have no intention of relying on someone who didn't do anything to help me. And when I was struggling so much, I said it firmly. The determination not to allow any refusal was clearly conveyed to my husband through my tone.
All right, I get it. I'm sorry I couldn't be of more help.
My husband apologized, looking genuinely sorry. A few weeks later, my mother-in-law stopped coming to visit, and gradually a sense of peace began to return to our days. Irie and I were practicing riding a bicycle in the yard. Irie, with a confident smile, was riding her bicycle with all her might. Watching her, I felt a warm feeling bloom inside my chest. Irie and I practiced riding the bicycle in the park and yard almost every day.
Mom, how do you ride a bicycle?
Irie asked while still perched on the bicycle. Put your feet on the pedals and try moving them. Of course, she didn't get it right at first. Irie almost gave up a few times. But she held on and got back on the bicycle.
Do you think I'm ready to take off the training wheels now?
Irie pointed at the training wheels as she spoke. Okay, let's take them off and give it a try. Irie cheerfully agreed, and together we removed the training wheels.
Mom, hold my bicycle at first.
All right, I've got you. Irie gradually and slowly pedaled the bicycle. At first, it didn't go well, but little by little, she began to find her balance and started pedaling on her own. Watching my daughter's progress, I too began to regain my confidence.
Look, Mom! I'm almost riding by myself!
Continuing to practice, Irie shouted joyfully. 2 days after removing the training wheels, she was moving forward without falling. That's amazing, Irie! I'm so proud of you! I clapped my hands and encouraged Irie. One day, Irie finally managed to ride the bicycle by herself. I watched that moment with tears welling up and showed a smile. You learned to ride so quickly! Congratulations! I hugged Irie tightly as she got off the bicycle.
Thanks, Mom! We've got to show Grandma too!
Irie said with a smile. I pondered for a moment. Would it be alright to let them meet now? That thought crossed my mind. But even as stubborn as she is, I thought my mother-in-law might have changed her ways after being told off so clearly by her granddaughter. I smiled gently. Yes, Grandma will definitely be happy too. That day, I called my mother-in-law and told her that Irie had learned to ride a bicycle. On the other end of the phone, she was overjoyed, with tears in her eyes.
I'll definitely come and see her next time,
she promised earnestly. On the weekend, my mother-in-law came to the park. Irie started to ride her bike toward her with a beaming smile.
Grandma, look! I can ride by myself!
My mother-in-law was moved and hugged Irie, tears streaming down her face.
That's amazing, Irie! I'm so happy for you!
Watching the scene, I felt a warm feeling spreading in my chest. From now on, we can all grow together as a family. That evening, when Hideaki came home from work, Irie excitedly reported her day's practice to him.
Dad, today I learned to ride the bicycle all by myself, without Mom's help.
Hideaki looked at Irie with a happy expression, listening intently.
Really? That's amazing, Irie. I'm surprised you learned so quickly.
Right? Aren't I amazing?
Yes, truly amazing. I'm so proud to have you as our daughter.
He said with a proud smile, patting Irie's head. At that moment, I regretted something I had said earlier. We have to raise her together. She's our daughter, after all. After putting Irie to bed, I faced Hideaki in our bedroom. I decided I would raise Irie on my own, after feeling I couldn't rely on you anymore. But now that I think we might be able to get along better with your mother, maybe I should reconsider my stance. What do you think?
Yeah, I was planning to talk about that today too. I truly regret how things went with my mom. I couldn't help you back then, and I've just been relying on you. But I won't let that happen again. I'll face things properly with you. So, can you trust me again and let me raise her together?
It seemed like Hideaki was reflecting on things in his own way. Through this experience, I've also realized something important. Yes, let's raise her together, our daughter.
Yeah, let's do that.
As the days went by, the bond within our family grew stronger. Although my mother-in-law's visits became less frequent, we started cherishing our time together as a family even more. I also reconsidered my relationship with my mother-in-law, and we began to respect each other's positions. Thank you for today. Irie was very happy too, I said with gratitude in my heart.
Thank you as well.
My mother-in-law replied with a smile. And Irie continued to grow stronger. Learning to ride a bicycle gave her a lot of confidence, and she began to actively take on new challenges.
Mom, what should I try next?
With eyes sparkling, Irie asked eagerly, "How about we try cooking together next?"
Yes, let's do it. Grandma, you should join us too.
My mother-in-law smiled warmly at the idea.
Well then, how about we all have a cooking class together?
And so we embarked on a new challenge as a family, deepening our bonds. By supporting and understanding each other, we were able to build a stronger relationship. Irie continued to grow little by little each day, discovering the joy of taking on new challenges. I, too, grew alongside my daughter, reaffirming the importance of family. My mother-in-law also reconsidered her role, choosing to cherish her time with the family.
Family is truly wonderful, isn't it?
My mother-in-law said with a gentle smile. Yes, it is. Let's keep doing our best together. With a confident smile, Irie took both my hand and my mother-in-law's.
Yeah, let's all do our best together.
And so our family united, ready to embrace new days ahead. By growing individually and strengthening our bonds, we became an even stronger family.